Hello and welcome to Crimes of the Heart Tarot. I'm Miss Vicki, and I'm going to use the tarot to see if we can gain more insight into unsolved mysteries, deaths, and disappearances. Let's get started. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Today I want to do a cold case, but a really interesting one, about the disappearance of George Allen Smith IV. He's an American who disappeared from the Royal Caribbean cruise ship line July of 2005. Now, he was only 26 years old and on his honeymoon with his wife Jennifer. It's an interesting story. The background is kind of strange. He and his wife were on this cruise ship honeymoon. I think it was a 12-day trip. I'm not sure. I know one of the countries they went to was Turkey. I'm going to use the 8 Coins Tattoo Tarot today. And what happened with George was he and his wife were taking total advantage of all the amenities that a cruise ship has to offer. They were drinking, they were gambling, witnesses, crew members, they all said that George and his wife had been very loud, drinking a lot, and gambling. You know, a lot of people do that when they go on cruises, but this was excessive. A lot of people noticed it, a lot of other passengers. So it was kind of strange. He was seen gambling. They had a casino on the ship, and drinking heavily. Both he and his wife. His wife, the rumors are that she had been flirting with other men in the casino, even kind of disappeared for a while that night. We're talking about the last night he was seen on the cruise ship. He was seen in the company that night of 3 or 4 men. They weren't with him on the cruise, they weren't relatives. The man in the cabin next to the Smiths complained a lot about noise. Apparently, the drinking was so excessive that even the crew was pretty much, on guard about all this. It was almost binge drinking, almost like a fraternity type situation. Now, I know a lot of people cut loose on cruises and they go crazy and drink and do all this stuff, but this was excessive, apparently excessive. That night, the neighbor in the cabin next to them, he had complained several times about noise. He heard several people go into the cabin with George, and his wife was nowhere to be seen. No one knows where Jennifer was. She had been seen drinking and flirting in the casino and basically disappeared. George was in the company of 3 or 4 men. He apparently went into his cabin that night. The person in the cabin next to him, it was late at night, I think around 4 o'clock in the morning. The person in the cabin next to him heard a lot of talking, a lot of men talking, a lot of noise. Oh, boy, I don't want to do that. A lot of noise going on, slamming and banging. And this was almost 4 in the morning. The poor guy in the cabin next to him was trying to get some sleep. The last thing he reported that he heard was he heard the door open and slam. It sounded like several people left. But then he did hear, the last thing he heard from the cabin that night before George disappeared was someone opening and closing, slamming doors, slamming closet doors. Some kind of a conversation, too, he thought he heard between 2 people. Now, George had been so intoxicated. He had bragged about having a large sum of money in his stateroom. Really, really careless things to do. But it was like he was totally out of control. And this is all alleged. This is just my interpretation of the reading of the cards. Now, the next morning, his wife Jennifer was found passed out in a hallway, had to be put in a wheelchair and carried to her room. In the room, they found, it had a balcony. They had a balcony in their room where you could look out at the ocean. There was a chair there. They found a small amount of blood stains on the bed, really small. They found on the edge of the balcony what looked like a bloody handprint. No sign of George. She didn't know where he was. She was too drunk to remember. Basically, this is all alleged. My interpretation of the cards. There was a canvas awning below their balcony, and George was nowhere to be seen, but there was a lot of blood on the balcony, on the canvas above the balcony. Like someone had been injured and fell. They theorized that he hit the canvas and went into the ocean. Well, this would have been around 4 or so in the morning. The police did investigate. The FBI even came out and did some kind of an investigation. And there's 2 theories about this. The first theory is that George was so drunk after these 3 or 4 men left his cabin. I'm not sure what they were doing in there. Drinking, I guess. A lot of noise. That he went onto the balcony and jumped over the railing. There was a bloody handprint, like he'd hung on. He either fell and grasped with a... Why he would be bloody, that's my question. I don't understand that. Fell to the canvas awning below his balcony and went into the ocean. The other theory is that the men that he'd been bragging about money and drinking with, to the point of basically binge drinking, had gone to the cabin with him to rob him, because he had bragged about having a large sum of money, something like $50,000, when he was in the casino. Really an unwise thing to do, but he was beyond under the influence by that point. So I want to ask the cards, what is true? Did George accidentally fall over the balcony, grasp with his bloody little hand, fall to the canvas and bounce into the ocean? Or was he thrown overboard or pushed? So I'm going to lay out the cards in 2 sections. First section, I want to make that the section where the cards are going to say, yes, he accidentally, that'll be this side, he accidentally, being drunk, injured himself somehow and fell overboard, grasped with the railing. Why his hand would be bloody, I don't know. There's no explanation for that, because they hadn't said any fighting had been going on in the casino or in the part of the ship where there were, where there were people that saw him, or crew. But they did find blood, and they did find a bloody awning right below his balcony. So let's ask the cards. And this will be the basis of the reading. I'm using did I show you this? The 8-coin tattoo tarot. I haven't used this in a while. All right. Now, this side, these cards on this side will answer the question, was George so drunk he injured himself somehow, fell over the balcony, grabbed it, and then fell to the awning? Or was he pushed or thrown over the balcony? All right, the first card we have, this is going to be the basis of the situation. The Empress. All right, the Empress is about a woman, a beautiful woman, lots of abundance. This is somebody who's wealthy, has a lot of money, has a lot of everything. Now, he was from a fairly well-off family. I believe they actually had owned liquor stores, someone said. I don't know if that's true. So the Empress could stand for abundance. He was a well-off guy, wealthy guy, bragged about his money. That's interesting. Now let's see what the cards have to say. Did he accidentally fall? All right. We have the Two of Pentacles in reverse. Two of Pentacles is about money. It's about balance. It's about making things right. In reverse, this is out of balance. Now he was, and I'm going to say this, he was way out of control that night with the substance abuse and the way he was acting. So it could refer to that, but we need more cards. All right, beneath that is the Six. Wow, the Six of Wands. Now this is an interesting card to come up underneath. This is about a celebration. It could be a victory. He was celebrating. And with the Two of Pentacles in reverse, he was celebrating in a way out of balance way. This is also a card about ego, showing off, acting a buffoon, a big fool, a big man, which is what he was doing according to witnesses. All right, what do we have here? We've got the Queen of Cups. All right, here we have the Queen of Cups is passion. This is love. This is also a drinking card. Now his wife, there was something going on with his wife, Jennifer. She was also drinking, but she was doing a lot of flirting. No one really knows where she went before he disappeared. This had something to do with her. That's interesting. Beneath her, we have the Seven of Cups. Wow, a lot of cups. There was a lot of drinking going on. This is fantasy. This is delusions. This is illusions, delusions, drinking, and totally out of control. So he wasn't in his right mind that night. I'm just going to come out and say that. She was flirting. She was drinking also. All right. And then we have the Three of Pentacles. Now this came up in reverse. Three of Pentacles is about working together. It is money. He was gambling. In reverse, this is things not working out with them. I'm getting things were really rough with them. I think a lot of it had to do with the drinking, but there was something else going on with her. Beneath that card, we've got the Tower. All right, this is something drastic happened. The Tower is something you just don't foresee. Now this side we're talking about him accidentally falling or jumping to his death. Now the Tower card could very well be saying that. It could also be saying, there's lots of flames going out, that he was really upset about something. I don't really see any cards that show me he did away with himself, either accidentally or on purpose. I see a lot of fogginess. They were both not in their right minds that night, but he was very angry about something. But he was egotistical. He wasn't the type of guy to, from what I see in the cards, to just do away with himself, though he might have accidentally fallen. That's what we're asking on this side. All right, we'll come back to these cards. Now we want to know, was he helped overboard? Did these men, and there were 3 or 4 men in his cabin that night, lots of noise, they left, according to now this man is next door. He's not seeing what's going on, but he's definitely hearing it. It sounded like at least 3 of them left, but there was somebody in there slamming doors, opening and closing, and he thought he heard conversation, talking. Now, was an argument happening in the stateroom? Okay, we've got the Knight of Wands. The Knight of Wands is a fire sign. This is a young person. The men were young. They weren't like older men. Nobody knows a lot about them. The FBI did investigate too. So we're talking about young men full of fire. Beneath that we have, wow, the Seven of Cups. Seven of Cups is, Seven of Pentacles, I'm sorry, is about money. This is about reevaluating, looking at your money. So this side is talking so far about young men, full of fire, and money. Then we have the Hermit. This is in reverse. Now the Hermit card is somebody who's soul searching, somebody who goes within, wants to do the best they can with what they have, wants to step back and get illumination, be illuminated about life or something, wanting to know answers. In reverse, this is someone not looking out for their best interests, not basically doing the right things, but looking for information, wanting illumination, coming out and wanting the truth. We have the Pentacles. Then we have the Sun. Now the Sun card is about happiness. This is somebody who's doing the right thing. Sunshine, shining lights on things. In reverse, this is casting shadows. This is somebody who's hiding something or doing something in the shadows. Now he was pretty vocal about what he was doing, what he was saying. He wasn't hiding anything, but whoever was in his room might have been. All right. Then we have the Four of Pentacles. This is, now this came up in the upright position. The Four of Pentacles is about building something. It's about happiness, finding something, making something happen, a victory. Now, you know, they never said the details of the investigation. He bragged that he had $50,000 in his cabin or something. I think that was all substance talking. But these cards show that something was, a small victory was found. I'm getting something was found in his cabin. Something was in his cabin. Something was built. There was a small success. So something successful happened in the cabin. And then we've got the King of Wands. The King of Wands is a really emotional, powerful man. He came across as someone who thought he was very powerful. In reverse, this is somebody totally out of control, full of fire. I'm getting mixed feelings from these cards. On this side, where it looks like he accidentally went overboard, I see ego, I see delusion, I see being really, really out of it. I see problems with his wife, Jennifer. Something happened with her. And it was almost something he hadn't expected. Whatever happened to him, obviously, was sudden. It wasn't planned. He didn't plan to jump overboard. But I am seeing on this side some youthful energy here. Wands are fire. And I see someone about putting energy into finding money. I think whoever was in his cabin believed that he had money. He said that. That doesn't mean it's true, obviously. The Hermit card in reverse is somebody who's coming out of the shadows. I think whoever was in his cabin, some of the people in his cabin were, I want to say, criminal types, or had done some bad things before, because they pretended to be his friend. They were there for him, but in reality, they came out to be, their true personalities came out when they were in his cabin. I think there were some people that were, some of the men he was hanging around with were interested to find out if he had a lot of money. Now the Sun in reverse basically is is darkness. It's not being enlightened. It's not. I don't think they found the money. I think somebody was in his cabin. One of these 3 or 4 men believed that he had money in there. Now that doesn't mean they did anything to cause him to fall overboard or push him overboard. But I'm getting a small victory here. This is the Four of Wands. This is some happiness. He had some money. I'm getting he had some money in his cabin. That's what they were after. Whoever went with him, these 3 or 4 men were acting like his big buddies. But I get they were not who they perceived to be, not all of them. I think there was an argument, and I think somebody of those 3 or 4 men, and they're not sure if it was 3 or 4, but that's who he was hanging around with, thought he had money. I think there was an argument, a fight of some kind. His hand was bloody. Whoever went overboard, and it had to have been George. He was the only person missing on the cruise ship. His hand, there was a bloody handprint on the railing, and there was blood on the awning. They beat him. He was beat. I truly believe that he was in an altercation with these 3 or 4 men. He was very, very out of it. He'd been very upset earlier about his wife. I don't know where she was or what she was doing. He had bragged about this money. The next door neighbor in the cabin next to him said that it sounded like the men left, but there were still voices, someone talking. He didn't hear a lot of loud noise after that, but he did hear drawers slamming open and shutting. I think there was one last person in his room that wanted money, and I think they found some money. They never said how much money he had, what the results were. Did he have money? Did it disappear? It was never in the news. A lot of people think he was just drunk and fell over. I think he was in an argument. I think he foolishly bragged about having all this money. There were criminal types that were following him, pretending to be his friend, drinking with him. They took him at his word. They went into the cabin with him. We know they were in there because the neighbor in the cabin next door heard men in there, a lot of noise. You heard some leave, but there was still somebody in there. And why would he have a bloody handprint unless he was in an altercation with somebody? And there was blood on the canvas, a bloody blob of, not a human print, but a good blob of blood on the awning. There was a railing there. It wasn't like you just are looking off into the ocean. I think the last person in there was looking for money. I don't think he found it. I don't think he found $50,000. I think he found something. His wife was off in the twilight zone somewhere doing something. He was very upset about that. I think that's why he started drinking. Their honeymoon was not going as it should have gone. And I'm not blaming her, because he was doing plenty of things he shouldn't have been doing. And his family was very upset about Jennifer being what they were told about her. But I don't believe she had anything to do with him going overboard. But they had an argument, or something happened. There was something going on with her, and I think someone followed him to the cabin. The 3 or 4 men that went with him, one stayed behind. I'm getting one. This hermit, who pretended to be somebody he wasn't, was the one looking for the money. I think he hurt George. I think there was an argument. I think he couldn't find that $50,000. And I think he might have held him over the balcony. This is what I'm getting. He held him and he said, I'll push you over if you don't tell me where the rest of the money is. And I think that's what happened. A lot of people say, oh, he was just drinking, he fell over. But the blood, you can't explain that. That's what I'm getting from the cards. I'm getting that somebody, George foolishly was binge drinking, foolishly put himself in a vulnerable position, had an argument with his wife, something really bad went on with them. And I'm not blaming her, but they weren't getting along. And someone stayed behind of those 4 men, looking, opening the door, looking for the money, the $50,000. This person was not who he pretended to be. This person, this so-called friend of George's, was a bad person with a history, a criminal history. And I think he pushed George around. There was some physical altercation, and I think he said, I'll push you over the balcony. This is what I'm getting if you don't tell me where that money is. And I think he went right over. That's what I'm getting from the cards. I'd like to know your opinion. It's an interesting story, what happened. And also the FBI, I did read that they were involved in looking at some kind of mafia involvement, though I'm not sure this is what happened to George. He just opened himself up to this. This is all alleged. This is just my opinion of the cards. So I'm going to close the circle. I'd like to know what you think. Leave kind comments, please. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.